Today we're diving into a really provocative thesis about American politics. It's an argument that claims one party has completely changed its goals, moving away from actually governing. We're going to break this whole viewpoint down step by step so we can really understand how it's all put together. So, these two words, this is it. This is the heart of the entire argument we're looking at. Slime and punish. Now, according to the source material, this isn't just some political tactic. It's a fundamental shift in the entire philosophy of one of America's major political parties. Okay, so to be super clear, the idea we're exploring today comes directly from a commentary segment on Fox News. Our goal here isn't to agree or disagree with it, but just to neutrally unpack the viewpoint and see exactly how the argument is built. So what does slime and punish actually mean? Let's get right into defining the argument according to the source. Well, the commentary coins this phrase, the punishment party, and it uses it to describe the modern Democratic Party. The core claim is that the party's main objective is no longer about governing, but instead has become all about punishing former President Donald Trump and, by extension, his supporters. And here's where the source draws a really sharp line in the sand. It argues that all the energy and resources being poured into this punishment agenda are resources that are not being spent on, say, crafting policies to help working families or to get the economy growing. So to back up this thesis, the source points to recent history as its main piece of evidence. And specifically, it hones in on the efforts to impeach Donald Trump. You know, the two impeachments of Donald Trump are basically presented as exhibits A and B for this whole punishment thesis. The source lays out this timeline. You've got the first inquiry over a phone call with Ukraine, and then the second one after the events of January 6th. And, as the source points out, both of these ended in acquittal in the Senate. And to really hammer the point home, the source starts putting numbers on the board. It highlights that the first House inquiry alone took roughly 3 months. And then, the Senate trial that followed took another 21 days. The reason for showing these numbers is to frame the whole thing not just as a political event, but as a major use of time. Time that, the argument goes, could have been spent governing instead. Okay, so what's the supposed motivation behind all of this? According to the source, this isn't just random. It has a very specific set of goals. The commentary actually lays out several key reasons for this alleged focus on punishment. The source argues the purpose is basically 4 things. 1, to make sure a populist figure like Trump can never run again. 2, to protect what it calls the Democratic Party's monopoly on certain groups of voters. 3, to block populist-style policies. And finally, to punish America itself for what it sees as its past sins. And this chart really visualizes what the commentary is talking about with those voter blocks. The argument is that Trump made some real inroads with Hispanic voters, some Black voters, and working-class union members, groups that have traditionally been seen as solidly aligned with Democrats. According to the source, that shift felt like a major threat, and that's what's fueling the desire to stop it from ever happening again. So the commentary develops this idea by creating this direct contrast, right? A focus on punishment versus a focus on policy. And you can see this pretty stark dichotomy laid out here. On one side, it lists all the activities it labels as punishment. Things like impeachments and investigations, including Crossfire Hurricane, which was that initial FBI probe into the Trump campaign. And on the other side are what it calls the neglected policy areas, like the economy and border security. Then, the source argues that even when the focus does shift to policy under the Biden administration, the results are negative. It specifically points to extended COVID restrictions, rising inflation, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, referencing the terrible bombing at Abbey Gate, and what it calls an open border. And finally, the commentary wraps things up by looking to the future. It issues a warning about what it sees as the ultimate endgame of this whole strategy. The source warns its audience that the end goal here is to secure a permanent majority in power, and it claims this will be done through 2 huge steps. First, by expanding or packing the Supreme Court, and second, by pushing through a huge immigration amnesty, which it alleges would create millions of new Democratic voters. And that really brings us to the core question this whole thesis raises. The slime and punish argument is claiming that politics has fundamentally shifted from a debate over policy to a quest for punishment. Now, regardless of where you stand on that claim, it forces us to think about the lens we use to view political motivation today. It's a heavy question and definitely one worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me.